So good to be here. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm gonna do this. Thanks. Okay, cool. So this is just an awesome kind of. These are some of my favorite panels usually, like Q&A, solo panels, just have a chat. I usually start with a little like intro about me, like how I got into the business and how I, the journey to this point. I won't make it too long so that we can get to questions. My name is David Matranga, if you don't already know. I'm an actor, a voice actor. It's weird, I always start with the whole thing about, I call myself a voice actor because that's just that's the term, but I really just feel like an actor. Like even when I'm just voicing something, I'm still using all the same tools that I would if I was doing something on stage or on camera, just kind of threaded through a different needle, so to speak. And I do panels too on that, the difference between stage and screen and voiceover. And then also just that I do panels too sometimes on the difference between different types of voiceover, because there are so many different types of voiceovers. But anyway, long story short, yeah, I started doing theater in high school and went to my undergrad. I got a degree in musical theater, a BFA in musical theater, and was singing and acting. And then after that, I started working professionally on stage. And then, I've been doing anime for over 15 years. My first anime was a lead role, Orphan and Orphan, which thanks. I love that's, it's funny when I go back and I watch like the first 6 episodes of that series, I think, man, I was really learning. I mean, I was an actor and I was a trained actor, and I felt confident in that part of my craft, but I was really learning at the time. In those first episodes, learning on the job what it was to be a voice actor in anime, what that meant, and how I had to sort of channel my work into a different thing. So that was my first thing, and then I kept doing anime, since then. Really, there was a period of time where I went back to school in Connecticut. I went back to grad school and got a master's in acting, and. I lived in New York for years, in Connecticut. I've done stage work. I still do stage work to this day. I just closed a production of Three Musketeers at the Alley Theater in Houston. Prior to that, I did a production of 12th Night at Dallas Theater Center. I've done some on-camera stuff, independent film, some episodic television stuff. But yeah, I kind of, the way that I got into voiceovers is I said, all right, I really love to do this. How can I diversify my talent? Like, how can I create more opportunities to make a living doing what I want to do, right? And I was really kind of business strategic about it. And so I made a voiceover demo and I started shopping that around and getting it out to places. But my first anime was just an audition for my agent, and they said, and they didn't really know what it was. They just called me and said, you have an audition for a cartoon. And I was like, a cartoon, really, in Houston? And it was Orphan and Orphan at ADV Films back in the day. And that kind of, Stephen Foster was the director at that time, and I worked with him a lot. We had a great relationship. Then Appleseed was a movie that I did. It's a trilogy and a series. And Monica, who's I've worked with for years, kept saying, we need to get you starting to work more Funimation, blah, blah, blah. And Appleseed, Funimation got the license for the series, and Colleen reached out to me, and she was directing it, and she's the one who directs My Hero. So it's, really the lesson in all of this is like relationship building, like your people that you work with. If you show up on time, prepared, you do your work, you're pleasant to work with, like it comes back around, hopefully. So she asked me if I wanted to do Briario's since I did the films in the series. I worked with her, and that kind of got me rolling into Funimation, and then, taking it all the way to the end, here we are, Colleen's directing My Hero, and here we all are. But yeah, I've been blessed and grateful to get to keep doing this. I didn't do conventions much at the beginning of my anime career, mostly because of time. I just was doing other work. But when I started doing them, it was awesome. It was the first time I was like, oh, this is where I get to go to like talk to people about the work, because you know, you're isolated in anime. You don't get to really, I mean, unless you're on a bunch of, you know, Reddit and a bunch of places and you're reading comments and stuff, you really don't have much interaction about the work, you know? So it was really eye-opening when I started going to conventions, hearing people talk about this anime that affected them this way. And it's cool to be a part of that, because as an actor, you know, at the end of the day, it's a tough business. It's a tough thing to make a living doing. If you don't have some type of love for it, it's hard to keep going. But the real thing that happens is that you get to realize that, I mean, the dream is that you get to impact people with your work in some way, right? Tell a good story. And it's cool to hear that anime does that, you know, and that I've been a part of things that have affected people. So anyway, that's how I got to this lovely place right here in front of you people. So let's just open it up for questions. I'll do my best to ask. To answer. If I can't, I'll just try to make a bad joke about it. I saw you first, and then we'll go over here. Yeah.
Since you talked about Orphan, and that was the first time I heard you in anime. A few years ago, there was an Orphan video game for the PS2, and Ubisoft licensed it, but the problem was they decided to take voice recording to California.
Right.
And they had Quentin Flynn voice Orphan. Have you ever played that game, and what was your opinion on the voice acting in general?
Hold on one second, I'm sorry, I'm trying to bring up like I always do this, my cheat sheet of like all of the things I've done, because I feel like people start asking me questions sometimes and I'm like, oh God, that's one of the ones where I'm like, I have no idea.
I've never played the game. I just like started getting back into gaming like in the last 4 years, and it's on my list to like find it and play it. I didn't know actually that they cast. I wasn't sure if they had cast English voice actors to do it, or if they kept it subtitled. You know, sometimes.
Yeah, they dubbed it.
Yeah, they dubbed it. Okay, that makes me even want to see it even more. So my real answer is I have no idea. I don't know why that happens. I mean, it happens a lot. You know, it happens in other industries too. Like, I mean, in other parts of the industry, like, you know, they'll reboot a franchise and you know, use. Every new director and producer, one of the things that they hang their hat on is, you know, I want to put my stamp on this. I want to put my creativity to this, which makes sense, right? So sometimes you want to use all new people. It happens in other jobs too, when there's turnover and a new boss comes in, they want to, you know, sort of hire on their own people. So it makes sense to me, but yeah, I don't know. I heard the game was really hard though. Like I heard it was. A lot of people have told me that it was difficult to play, and so it became like not as fun to try and beat or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, what did you think of it? I mean, if you don't mind me asking.
From what I've heard, it's the game is really wonky. From what I've heard.
Yeah, me too.
But also to go off that, again, so when I talked to and you heard that they were going to do Orphan anime, I was like, yeah, I really hope Sentai licenses so they can get you back for that.
And you know, one of my things too that I'm doing now is I was just out in Los Angeles for Anime Expo, and I'm starting to meet more people out in the Los Angeles area as well. And I would love to get to know some of those people so that, you know, that relationship can start, so that I can do if Funimation or Sentai doesn't get it. Not that, you know, even with those companies, you can never assume anything as an actor. You can't assume that they're going to want to use me again. They might want to completely do a different thing, or maybe somebody thinks my voice is aged out of it. You never know. Like, you don't really have a lot of control over those kind of things. But whoever gets it, I would definitely want to reach out and be like, this would be amazing to kind of come full circle. That was my first role, you know. But you never know. But yeah. Thanks for asking that. Hugh, and then we're gonna go there and there. Yeah.
So you ever get down where you see James Hong?
Oh.
Yeah.
Did I geek out when I saw him?
Yeah.
No, I didn't really see him that much. But are you talking about that independent film that I was in?
I think.
Yeah, it's called Dropa. Yeah. They just got distribution for that. But yeah, man, he's iconic. You know.
Oh yeah.
Done so many different roles.
He was the dad from Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah. He's.
That he was Long Pan too.
Right.
They drove a little tiny.
Yeah, I remember that big time. Yeah. No, he's awesome. That's It would be cool to work more with him, but yeah. All right. Here, yeah.
Can you do your Todoroki voice?
Yeah, it's kind of like my own voice, but let me try. Let's see. I'll become a hero without using my left side. Yeah, that's it, right? Listen to it, or Deku, what are you, All Might's love child? I've been rewatching season 3, so, you know, a lot of Todoroki's lines are really internal, you know, like there's that whole season 3 when they're doing the provisional licensing exam, and he's like, really talking to himself, you know, and that's kind of like, that's where I really lock into that voice, because he's really, I said earlier at the My Hero panel, you know, he really lives in a conversation in his own head, you know, and then when he tries to interact with people, he doesn't know how to do it that well, you know, like, I mean, the funniest thing is when they were like, what's your hero name? And he was just like, Shoto. Like, he didn't even have a good hero name, like, when they did the dorms, the dressing up, or the decorating of their dorms, his was cool, like, he, like, reworked it and everything, but, yeah, so yeah, it's fun to lock into it, but I have to say, on that note, people think that, you know, I'm a much more, if you haven't already, if you can't already tell, like, excitable person. I speak pretty quickly, I'm, you know, I have a lot of energy, I like to talk, I like to chat with people, so Todoroki's not, even though he's, you know, he's very sort of even-keeled, calm, cool, that whole thing, it takes me about 5 minutes or so to get into the voice because I want to do it, you know, more animated, especially during a fight or something. I mean, he screams and stuff during a fight or directions, or he's like very strategic, but sometimes Colleen and I will get in there and I'll do a line and she'll be like, okay, so that was the excited Todoroki, now let's do, you know, and I'm like, yep, you're right. And then I'll do one and it'll be completely flat and monotone. And you don't want that either, right? Monotone is boring, it doesn't give you any point of view, it doesn't tell the story correctly, you know, monotone is just sort of nothing there. So then I'll do one really flat like that, and then the third one I'll find that middle ground, and then we lock into it. But it's more challenging than I thought it would be. You know, I've done crazy type characters, I've done really low, brooding, more animated characters, but finding that right balance where it's not boring and not just like nothing going on, but it's also not, you know, in the Deku world or the Bakugo world or whatever. So yeah, it's challenging. I feel like you and you there, and then we'll go back and forth. You and then you, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, have you ever played a role that made you so emotional that you actually started crying in the booth? Like, if there was like either a crying scene or a dramatic scene that you actually got really in the moment about?
Sure, yeah. I mean, every time I've answered this kind of similar question before, and I've answered it before on, you know, with other actors on a panel, and every actor is different, right? So some people don't feel the need to really, for that to happen. And I agree, like, you know, I've done crying roles where I didn't actually have any tears at all, but I can feel the feeling and it comes through in the voice, right? So it doesn't happen all the time. During Clannad, one time it did happen, because I felt like at that time I had to sort of, in order to, that show is so, it like takes slice of life to the extreme level to me, you know what I mean? It's in that genre, but it's like so, I feel like you could just take the audio track away and just from the voices get like what's happening, you know, the feeling and the tone and all that. So there was one time during that where it wasn't that I got so emotional that I started crying. It was that I felt like I needed to do that in order for it to be authentic. So that was the only time that I've ever done that. And I've done that before on stage, you know, where I'm doing an emotional role and a tear will happen every night or something like that. So but I'm not also one of those actors. There are a lot of actors who can just cry on cue. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening, you tell them and they can just do it. I need to really be more in the moment to do it. So yeah, Clannad is the only one. Greg Ayers used to make fun of me for that. He'd be like, man, whatever, you're such a method actor, like, just do the line. So yeah, good question.
Between that and Angel Beats, though, which one's sadder?
Yeah, I know. They're both, I know. They're both like crazy sad. They're like on the major anime cry list. You know, it's like, if you want to cry, here's the top 3 things you should watch. So they won't come back. No, we're gonna go back and forth. So they're. All right. So yeah, go ahead.
Some of your favorite shows that you voiced in.
Favorite shows? I just got to revisit Sayuki, which is an old, that's right after Orphan, and they did Sayuki Reload Blast. And I didn't realize that was one of my favorite until we got to redo it. Or not redo it, but it was like a reboot that, updated all the animation. It was really cool. But I really like that guy. And it's another one that's hard because I tend to get cast in these characters that are not like emotive, or they're not verbally effusive. They don't express their feelings a lot. And I don't know what it is about my voice that I tend to get cast in characters that have a tough time, or they have a secret, or they don't want to be fully forthcoming. And there's something about my voice that just fits in that, right? So Sayuki's hard because Sanzo, he really loves these guys that he's traveling with, but they get on his nerves, and he's mean, and he's kind of crotchety, but you can't do that it can't be completely mean. It has to be mean in that way that like a family would do it, and that's not easy to find. So that Appleseed is one of my favorites. That's not a huge popular title. The films I think are great. A little piece of trivia about that is I did Appleseed Ex Machina first, and then we went back and redubbed the first film. And then the third film, I actually did the motion capture work for Appleseed Alpha. So that Physicality is my body moving on a motion capture studio, and they animated Briarios over my body. So as an actor who came up on the stage where you're using your entire instrument to express the story, it was weird to have voiced this character and then have to go back and give him physicality. So they had I had on the motion capture suit, and they would put like styrofoam under my arms so that when my arms would go down, they wouldn't go all the way down because his suit is so big. My arms would go down. It was just really, really an interesting thing to get to do, like to have voiced something and then have to put the physicality to it. So Appleseed is one that's near and dear. So those two, but Todoroki is, honestly, I'm like super invested in this character, in Todoroki. I just am. For all the same reasons. There's so much backstory, there's so much character, there's so much going on, that I'm as interested in it as anyone who might be viewing it, and I feel a responsibility to it. When we did season 2 and the big fights, the Deku fight and then the Bakugo fight, we heard about how much fans loved those scenes, and with this title being so popular and all that, you're like, man, we have to bring our A game here. This has got to be great. Otherwise, it's just going to be like, oh man, that did not reach the mark. And Colleen and everybody involved really did that. But yeah, I would say those 3 are the ones that come to mind. There are other sleeper things that when I leave here, I'll be like, oh, that, But yeah, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned you're getting back into gaming, so you could pick any series you ever worked on, or current series you're working on now that could be adapted into a game and that you could jump in and work on or play yourself. Pick a title. Which one do you want?
Well, they made a game of My Hero, right? But they didn't dub it.
Which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't dub it.
Every Dragon Ball Z game.
What? Yeah, I'm sure it's that. The answer to my own question is some business reason, you know what I mean, for whatever reason. But I really, really like, I would love there to be like a My Hero, but that game was a fighting game, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would love there to be like an open universe My Hero game.
Was that the One's Justice thing. I think
Yeah,
it's,
One's Justice. Yeah, yeah.
I saw a trailer for it and I completely forgot it existed.
Yep.
I completely forgot.
Yeah, it's out there.
I
My
just
my
played
niece,
it.
my 11-year-old niece, is totally into My Hero, and she got the game on Switch, and she's been playing it. I haven't played it yet, but I would love for it to be. I would love for there to be like a My Hero open universe game. I don't know why. I just think that would be cool. Like you
There's
could go.
actually a mobile game app that's coming soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
I don't know
cool.
if y'all are dubbing it though.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of any other, because I would want it to be ones where I love games where you can just explore, and like obviously there are missions and things you have to accomplish and all that, but being able to explore a world is cool to me. I think it's the reason I like acting too, is you get to explore some type of story or some type of world. The Appleseed universe is pretty cool too. It's like a universe in search of utopia. And I just like, Briarios is this cyborg, and he's like this amazing warrior, so that would be fun to fight, to actually like be able to do that, you know?
Yeah, they get back to motion capture.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm creating a job for myself, like that. All right, yeah, I think those are the ones that come to mind. I've done a lot of slice of life games, so they don't necessarily, animes, so they don't usually lend themselves to games completely, but all right, we had a question over here, yeah, and then we'll come back to this side, yeah. Hi.
First, I'd like to say I am a huge fan. I've been a huge fan for a while.
Thank you.
My dad and I first got introduced to you when you played Adam Arclight in Needless.
Right.
So I want to know, did you know the contents of that show when you first voiced Adam?
Yeah, I don't think so, and I still don't know if I know the contents of that show.
I
Like,
don't know if you want to know.
yeah, I know. And there are some things, yeah, that I've done that way where it's like, I would have liked to have known. You know, back in the day when we did stuff like that, you didn't really, there wasn't, I won't say it's not that there wasn't a sensitivity to it, but it wasn't on the radar as much to ask people about content like that. Now, you know, there's more, now, you know, when you audition for something, they tell you, you know, this is the content of this show, are you okay with that? This is kind of the character arc and what happens. So yeah, I'm like, I want to go back and watch that. There are certain shows like that. I have like, I can't think of the other. There are 3 that I want to go back and watch. But yeah, I didn't know.
That show is interesting. And they
Yeah.
took it off Netflix though, and I was kind of upset.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did a while
Interesting.
back.
Yeah.
But it's really action-packed, and you play a really big badass.
I love that guy's artwork. I mean, he's so cool. Yeah.
It's made of so sharp angles. And it's
Adam Arthur. I know. His shoulders are like. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you say I love unicorns in Todoroki's voice?
I love unicorns.
I love unicorns. Wait, let's try it one more time. I love unicorns. Yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I saw your hand go up there, and then I'll come to you. Yeah.
What has been like the most difficult character that you have to voice? That you the hardest time?
There are different ones for different reasons. Like, you know, I keep bringing up Briarios, but that's the one that keeps coming to mind. Like the first, so Appleseed, Ex Machina, he had to. Someone was hacking into his cyborg computer system and they didn't know that, and he slowly he's losing like control of his body, and like he plugs into this computer, and they're like wrecking his brain, you know, his computer system. And so that was one of the first shows that I did. It was sort of the midpoint in my career where I started doing a little bit of deeper, more gravelly type, not superheroes, but like Harlock and Appleseed, and where I really had to lay down on my chords, and because my voice, for the most part, is in the lower range, but it's the upper lower. Like I can't do, like when we did those when we tried to do Chris Sabat's I Am Here, like his voice is so unbelievable. It's like got such a resonance, you know? And vocal cords are just like guitar strings, right? So the thicker the vocal cord you're just genetically born with, the thicker your vocal cord, the lower your voice is gonna be. just like, you know, this thinner chord on a guitar is the higher string. So I always think about Chris Sabbath's vocal cords, like, you know, like ropes in there, man. It's amazing. So like my voice sits in like the upper part of the low, I would call lower range. I have some flexibility where I can go high. I just did a reboot of Ushio and Tora. Yeah, and I played Ushio in that. And Brett Weber is back as Tora, the beast or whatever. And like I love that they gave me the shot to do that because I don't get to do that as much anymore. But so Appleseed was right in the midpoint where I started, like I was being asked to lay down on my chords and really like get gritty and get superhero-y.
So it was like a change of pace.
It was a change of pace, and then I really had to I say lay down on my chords, I just mean like force my voice a little bit lower. And so I started losing my voice until I got used to doing that through that film. If you go watch that film, you can see it starts in a pretty low place. What is that? It sounds like a popcorn vendor at like a baseball game. That guy's like throwing his voice. It comes from over there and then it's over there. So throughout it, I slowly lose my voice, and I run. What is that?
It's just a guy in the hallway.
Oh, really? I thought it was on someone's phone. So I slowly am losing my voice throughout, you know? And you can hear it, like you can hear me just shredding my voice. And ironically, it works for the character because he's losing his mind, he's losing, they're hacking into his computer system. So that was the most challenging. That was the one where I was like, oh my God, like I had headaches after sessions. So yeah, that's the one that comes to mind. But there are all kinds of things that are challenging for different reasons. Yeah.
You said you did theater, and I was wondering what your favorite play or musical was.
So I'm old school, right? Like one of my, I really stopped doing musicals early on, mostly because I really started getting into story and the power of a good story, and I stopped finding musicals. Musicals went through a period where, and I mean, they're great for what they are. I'm not disparaging them. They're big song and dance numbers, and they're amazing to watch. But as far as like the content, it didn't interest me anymore as an actor. So I went back to school and I trained like in Shakespeare, I trained in Chekhov and Ibsen and all these classic plays, and Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller, and one of my favorite characters is, I never say the name of the play, the Scottish play. It's a Shakespeare play. It starts with Mackers. I know we're not in a theater, but I never say it anyway. And I got to play Macduff in that. And Macduff is the one who learns that his whole family has been killed. And he has this epic Shakespearean scene, like, before that. And then this guy Ross comes on and just tells him. And you can't prepare for that. Like, you can't be like, all right, I'm about to go on stage and have to, like, hear this information, so let me like amp myself up, because you have a whole scene, you're on stage for 10 minutes before. And so it's one of my favorite roles because you get to just really go there and you have to fully release into it or you can't do it, So that's one of the ones that comes to mind. Yeah, I love theater. I still do. It takes a lot of time and it's not like necessarily always the most lucrative thing. But it's like I will always, no matter what I do as an actor, I'll always come back to it periodically because it's kind of like this. Like I get to it's not a full-on conversation with an audience, but it's a conversation. And I always tell audiences that go to theater, like, you guys are the final piece. Like there is no play without the audience. Like what I was doing, there literally is no play. And the audience is the final piece that helps the actors learn what the play is. I'm getting to do a world premiere, I guess I can say this out loud, at the Alley Theater next spring, and it's such a beautiful play. It's called American, and American is spelled with a K-I-N at the end. And like, it's dream stuff that you get to do as an actor, like, because it's so impactful. that we did a reading of it, and the audience was floored, like all the stuff that it brings up. But yeah, I would say Macduff in the Scottish play is definitely one. I think this character that I'm going to get to approach in American is already up there. So yeah, and that's what's cool about anime too. Like as far as animation goes, not everything, but not it has dense storytelling, and it trusts the audience to like really go there and follow the narrative. Oh, I just had another one that was one of my favorite. It's totally gone. Wow. I can't remember. Oh God, I wanted to say it. I'll remember it. I'll just scream it out in the middle of another question.
Yay.
Yeah. No, awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, and then I'll come to you about.
So you mentioned that you went back to college and you at one point mentioned Shakespeare.
Mhm.
I'm really into Shakespeare. I wanted to ask you, from everything that Shakespeare has written, what would be your favorite play?
Mm-hmm.
And if you had a chance, which play you would actually want to be in?
I think I love, well, it's a different answer for like what I think is my, like, the best or my favorite play, and then what roles I would want to do. Like, King Lear, I think, is a great play. Like, I'm way too young to play that, but that's one that I would want to approach. I got to do Prospero when I was in The Tempest, when I was in college and undergrad, and I was 20 years old playing someone who's ostensibly, in his 50s, maybe early 60s. I would love to get to do that one again, to bring something different to that. But that, Shakespeare, I always tell people, like, Shakespeare is like music. It was Next to Normal. Yeah, I wanted to think of a musical, and Next to Normal is one. But again, it deals with darker subject matter. It's someone suffering from mental illness and can't get over the death of a child, and like serious. I love that show. Like, so I had an audition for that. I didn't get it, but I worked on it because I cared about it. It's hard for me to do that if I don't fully care. Because theater takes so much time, so much investment. Like, if you're not into it, it's I like Richard III. I think that's one that I would want to do. Like, I feel like I could do that right now. Like, I'd be at a good age to do that. And yeah, Richard III for sure. But Shakespeare's amazing. I used to teach sometimes for the Alley. And I'm like a total theater geek, so we don't have to talk about theater. People are like, hello, this is an anime convention. But I used to go into schools and teach Shakespeare stuff, and it's like music. It's like spoken word. You can learn a lot from it. So yeah, that's an awesome question. There was someone behind you. Yeah, I'll go back there. Yeah, and then we'll come to you after that. Yeah.
If you could choose to voice the character that you haven't voiced before, which character would it be?
Oh man, I'm so bad with these questions. It's usually, for me, characters in anime titles that I'm in, but I'm not voicing. Like Eren in Attack on Titan. Like, I auditioned for that, and like that would be really cool to do. But I hesitate to ask questions like that because I know Bryce, and he kills it. He's amazing. So I would never want to do it because it's his, I always want to have chances to do like zany characters, like I don't get to do that as much. Like I did Inu X Boku, does anyone know that title? Yeah, sometimes I go back and watch that guy because it's so much fun. He's like screaming sadist and masochist. I'm like, oh, like, and I don't, typically that's not where people see my wheelhouse. So roles like that, there's not a lot of specifics. I mean, at the panel earlier, I was like, I made a joke, but it was really not a joke. Like, I want to do, I'm getting to do something. I just found out that I'm going to be doing something this coming season for Funny, and it's I'm excited about this role in this universe to step into. So look for that. But yeah, this is another one that like something will come to me and I'll just scream it out at another when I'm in the middle of a completely different story. I got to do, what was that show? It was Ian and Micah and their cops. What was it? Ian and Micah. Ian Sinclair.
Was that, I think that was that spin-off of Tiger and Bunny.
Tiger and Bunny, or that's not free,
No,
right?
it's a
It's
spin-off
not
of
free.
Tiger and I can't remember, but I got to do an accent in that. I love getting to do like accent stuff, so I got to do like a Middle Eastern sort of accent. Anyway, yeah, sorry, I know it's not a great answer to your question. I'm lame with that answer. Okay, who's next? Okay, you were next, yeah.
If they made an anime about Richard III and you were casted as him, what voice would you give them?
What voice?
Yes.
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, typically I would have to see the character drawn because I use the artwork and as inspiration, I mean, the thing with, I would have to find something that was kind of gritty and low, but not cool. Because I don't think Richard III is like, he's not like a Todoroki. He's not someone who, gives off that vibe. And that would be the challenge. I can't even, I mean, it would be something, it's just gonna sound, no, I can't do it. I would have to look at how it was drawn. But that would be it. That's a crazy good idea. I don't know if anyone would watch stuff like that though, like Shakespeare animated.
There was a Romeo and Juliet anime.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it called Romeo and Juliet? Or was it like
Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I gotta go see it.
It's good.
We'll go to you and then to you.
Are there any anime roles that you regret taking on?
Not really, honestly. There are some things where you didn't know a character was going to have to do a certain thing, and you're like, At the time that so the answer is this. Well, that's the definition of regret. So I was about to say, I never regretted anything in the moment. It's like you don't regret things in the moment; you regret them after the moment. So. No, there really aren't. Like most of the time when I've done something, I've known what it's going to be, and I'm fully invested, fully on board. There are things as I've gotten older and I've seen like what anime can be, and that I think like, if I had known it was going to go that route, maybe I wouldn't want that as a part of my body of work. But not really. I mean, I can't say that there's regret strong enough that I would go and if I could like wipe something out of existence, do it, because I think it's all a journey to where I am now, and if I didn't do that one thing, that gave me something, right? So yeah, I don't really have like regrets about that. I don't have regrets about many of my choices in acting wise or entertainment wise. Yeah, that's a great question though, and you framed it wonderfully as well. Go ahead.
Since you're clearly very much invested in Shakespearean works,
Sure.
have you ever heard of Ian Desher's Star Wars translations of like the Shakespearean style?
Yes, because at the theater company in Houston at Comicpalooza, I think they do readings of that. Or maybe they do their own adaptations, but they'll take like Star Wars and do like a Shakespearean sort of bent on it or reading it. But no, I'll look that up. Ian Desher?
And he also just came out with Get Thou Back to the Future.
Nice. So is it all like in iambic pentameter? Like
Actually,
Shakespeare?
no. He actually uses a bunch of different styles. For example, in the Phantom Menace,
Right.
he has the original Chancellor end on the Greek syllables, where in
Oh, sure, right.
and in like Empire Strikes Back and The Empire Striketh Back.
Right, sure. Oh yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
And
That's
like the Jedi Doth Return.
Yep.
He has Boba Fett speak in prose.
So there's a company, yeah, right. And Shakespeare did the same thing, right? Like the clowns and people spoke in prose, some people spoke in verse.
Everyone has like their own sort of
Yeah,
style to it.
yeah, which is, the Shakespearean version of like the same thing we do. We speak in different styles. When you're in a different setting, you speak a certain way. When you're with your friends, you might speak a certain, yeah, there's a company in Houston called Classical Theater Company. They do great work. I've done a couple shows there. And do you guys know the voice actor Andrew Love? Yeah, he works with that company, and he and JJ, who's the artistic director and executive producer of that company, every year at Comicpalooza in Houston, they do readings of that. They just did Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, but I've never seen it, seen the words. I would love to read it.
He's currently up to date on all of the current films that are out.
Oh, really?
Except not the spin-offs. I don't
Right.
like the spin-offs though.
Right.
But yeah, he just.
That's so cool. That's cool. I think that there's a way to mix those things. That's awesome. Yeah.
I have two questions. Did
Sure.
you know about anime before you got into anime voice acting? And as a voice actor now, what are some cartoons you grew up with and people you looked up to like as a voice actor when you were a child?
Yeah, so I always feel bad when I answer this question because I knew like Speed Racer and like the Miyazaki films, stuff like that. But I didn't even regular animation, like even I watched, I'm like way older than you guys, but like I watched like He-Man and G.I. Joe and like those were, I was into He-Man, I have to admit it, I had all the figurines and all of that. So I watched anime here and there. I loved Speed Racer, and I loved the films, but I didn't really know that I was watching, anime or anything different. I think I knew it was a different style, but I didn't know what that was. But then I knew about it later as I got older, but I was really driven and I was working and I didn't seek out a lot of pop culture stuff, just in general, not just anime, but like I wasn't going to movies a lot, I wasn't watching a lot of television. I sort of went through a period where I was really focused on a handful of things and it didn't include that. So what were the two questions? What did I answer the questions? So not really.
Shows you grew up with.
Yeah, so the ones I mentioned are what I grew up with. When I got Orphan, I was like, oh, okay, right, I know what this is. But even then, it took me a little bit to get back into it. And then I started watching some of the stuff that I was doing, and then I would watch other stuff periodically here and there. Lately, though, it's kind of like as I got older, I started to appreciate anime for what it is and what it can be. But at the beginning, it was mostly a job that I got to do that was another way to get to do what I wanted to do. And also a way to do things that you can't do on stage or that you can't do Orphan was this sorcerer, badass, awesome spell binding, he was doing all this amazing stuff. You don't get to do that in other things unless you're in a huge, big budget film, and even then, it's a double and a green screen, and you're not, when you're doing it and you're watching the animation, you feel like you're kind of in it. So yeah, I came to anime more as I was doing it than I did prior, I guess is the best way to say it. Cool. All right, 5 minutes, we gotta do a speed round. Who hasn't asked a question? You there, and then we'll come to Ray.
What would you consider the most memorable line that you've ever voiced?
I know.
What? What do you think?
There's a child in here,
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
from Inoboku SS, and I greet her every morning.
Oh my god, you have to tell me after the
Okay, like this.
Man, that is so hard because like the ones that you remember are the ones that you are either currently doing or that you've done a lot of seasons for. And a lot of anime, as we all know, like we get into a show and it's like you do 2 seasons and then there's no, they don't make another season. My current favorite line is, "What are you, all mates love child?" That's my favorite line. when I saw that written, when I was in the booth and we're recording, and it's that great scene in the alleyway, and like Endeavor's there, and then I'm like, what is that? All mates love child. Is this a joke? Like, is someone playing a joke on me? And the Colin was like, well, we don't have, it's an alternative, and it made it in there, but because there's really no better way to express that. So yeah, that's my current favorite. But yeah, that's a good question. I'll keep that question in mind. Let's go over here and then we'll come back.
Alright.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Mineta as a character?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to answer that question because of the current climate that we're in too. Like, I mean, you know, like the where we are with our growing as a society. I think that, you know, there are times where I watch it and I'm like, oh wow, that's really on the nose. I mean, that's really like, you know, graphic in a way. Like it's not, because it's not out there, but but I think what Rita does with it is she brings like this playful attitude to it, and I think it's great. Like Mineta, when I was I saw Two Heroes at the Regal Cinema Live in Los Angeles, and Mineta killed in that movie. Like I feel like, have you guys seen the movie? Like I feel like that's when like one of the Mineta just arrived there, and it was awesome. So I don't have like strong feelings about like, oh my god, that character's point of view shouldn't be in there. In fact, I think it should be there because we should have a conversation about that. I think it offends some people. I think like, you know, it's a certain point of view, but you know, we should hear all points of view, and then you get to decide like, is that something you're cool with or not? You know, what do you think about it?
Personally, I just see him as a controversial group.
Yes. All right. I love it. Yeah, for sure, and it sparks conversation. Yeah, go ahead.
If all the characters you voiced were in a battle royale, who would be the first to die and who would be the sole survivor?
I mean, I feel like it would be Bertholdt would be the first to die.
What is he? Were you surprised?
Well, he would probably, yeah, Bertholdt would jump out of the ring, probably. He'd be like, what is it, ODM? My ODM gear doesn't work here. I think it might be a battle at the end, but between Todoroki and Briarios, maybe. I think maybe Tomoya would be like, probably, he might die right away, just from sadness. He'd be like, yeah. Man, that's a crazy battle royale of my characters is like a bunch of trauma just all together. It's like a bunch of like bad backstory, like, yeah. Traumatic damage, you know, yes, that would be like, I think they would all either die or just all cry together and get over it. Yes, that's a great question to end on, actually. I think we have to stop, right? You guys are so awesome. Thank you for being here. Yeah, thank you.